Chris Avina, American Outdoor News. I'm here with Aaron Smith from Safari Club International Record Book. Aaron, thanks so much for coming on. I know we have a lot to discuss today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Now, what exactly is the Safari Club International's Record Books? And what's that all about?
So the record book is the largest collection of big game animal hunting information that you can find in the world. We have more entries than any other record book. And again, it's from all over the world. It doesn't just consist of North America or Africa. It is every continent. It's every species that you can think of.
So there's different categories, things of that nature.
Absolutely, 100%. Yep. There's going into that would be, pretty robust, but there's a whole program on World Hunting Awards, and folks, when they put in their entries, they can, set a pathway to achieve those awards. We're very detailed on how that happens. We help them along their path. But the record book, in all honesty, is one of the coolest things I've ever come across. It allows hunters to document their hunting legacy in perpetuity, right? It's something that is never going to go away. They're going to be able to look at that for years to come. And it allows for a lot of other things to happen. It allows for state agencies to use it for wildlife research, conservation projects. Our foundation is able to delve into that a little bit and determine what species they may want to focus on as far as their conservation projects. So it's a robust, large database with some of the coolest things you'll ever see, right? The pictures, the scores, and it just allows hunters to document that legacy for a lifetime.
So both state and federal agencies get involved with this?
On different levels, yes. They'll use it to help determine different aspects of things that they are working on. So at one point, there was a large concern that the elephant population over in Africa was taking a hit, that species was getting smaller overall in general, size-wise, as well as population. And they were able to use our record book along with, other databases, but our record book was one of the main databases they used. And they were able to look at that information and then come back and say, hey, this isn't accurate. The species is actually growing in population, and their size has actually increased over the years, not decreased. So the claims that were being made were false, and they were able to clearly combat that based off the information in our record book.
Okay, that makes sense. I actually, when I darted a rhino in South Africa, we used a kit from Dr. James Durr at a Texas A&M. And we're able to take blood samples, hair samples, measurements, and the like, put it all together and send it off to him so he could, I guess, track the health and growth of that particular herd of rhino. Am I in line with what you're doing?
Absolutely. And Dr. Durr, it's really cool that you worked with Dr. Durr. He's on the record book committee as a liaison for us for our, the scientific research part of things. So we work with Dr. Durr regularly, and he's a phenomenal guy. But yeah, they track the overall health of that animal. And if there's multiple rhinos in that herd that have been darted, they can go ahead and track the overall health of the herd based on the information that they're getting back from when a rhino's darted. Because as you know, when they dart them, then there's a vet there with you to take a number of different samples to make sure.
That was the whole process. It was unbelievable.
Right. I've never been a part of that, but I have, I've gotten to hear hundreds of stories and working with the record book committee closely. We have a number of committee members that have done that and can relay the information much better than I can. They can tell you, personal experience, how that works. But being able to go through that with Dr. Durr and the committee members and, staff as a whole, like it's a really amazing process and how they work that. And the fact that they have that in place to make sure that they are helping with the conservation of that species, speaks volumes.
Well, that's something that's way overlooked as hunters by the general public. They think we just do what we do, but there's so much more conservation involved to preserve for the future. I'm proud to be a member of the community.
Amen. Me as well. Yeah, there's a lot of misconception, right? And it's our job to get out there and change that perception of us, because more often than not it's ignorance, right? It's just the people that get this perception of hunters being bad is they just don't understand everything that goes along with it. Like you said, they think we just go out there and do what we do. We just go home and take an animal and that's all we're doing. They don't think about feeding our families. They don't think about the conservation we work, all the groups that, you and I are probably a part of that are out digging water catchments and, planting trees and, doing all those kinds of things that help with conservation when, most people that are against us aren't out there doing those kinds of things.
No, they're just complaining.
Amen.
So there's really a tremendous amount of benefit to the record book.
Yeah. And, a couple of things that most people don't know is when you put an entry into the record book, there's a cost for that. And our awards program, there's a cost for that. But all of the dollars that come in, all of our net proceeds go to anti-poaching and conservation efforts around the world. So we're taking that money and we're going out there and we are doing what we need to do to make sure species around the world continue to flourish.
So how does somebody actually enter a species or a trophy to the record books?
So there's a couple of different ways. So they can either do a record book entry, which is a measured entry, or they can do a photo entry, which is a non-measured entry. So they can just submit a photo and a photo entry form. They can do that either via mail, snail mail, right? They can do it via email, or they can do it via our online system on the SCI Record Book online. They send that in. Our staff processes that, sends it off to the record book committee. The sub-chairs approve or decline it based on the information in the entry. And typically they're only declined for a short amount of time. It's typically there's just wrong information on there. It's missing a picture, hasn't been measured correctly, things like that. We get that cleared up and it goes in the book. But they submit that to us, and it's $35 to submit an entry, whether it's a photo or a measured entry. And you have to be a member of SCI to submit an entry. Now, if you're not a member and you submit the entry, no big deal. We call you up. We get you to become a member. Your first entry is free. It's on the house. We take care of that because we want you to become a member of SCI and support hunting and conservation worldwide.
Now, is there an award? Is there a process you got to go through? Is it rated based on measurements? How does that work?
So we have what's called our World Hunting Awards program. Photo entries count in that, but remember they're not measured. And then you have your measured entries. Those are your record book entries. Those actually go into the record book, and they are listed in there based on score under each species. And we have a bajillion different categories, right? There's species, for instance, whitetail, that is a robust, species. There's a
Sure.
number of different, northeastern, midwestern, Coues whitetail, all that jazz. So each one of them has their own category. We also have a low fence category and an estate category, right? Estate would be like, a Texas high fence, right? A
Yeah.
ranch. So they do not get mixed up. They are separated clearly. You cannot put a high fence and a low fence. And we have a very strict definition of what we decide is an estate. So anyone can get involved in the world. Anyone can get involved in the World Hunting Awards program. You just start putting in your entries, and we have what's called a field journal. They can follow along in that field journal and determine their path towards different awards. And there is a starting point, and our finishing point is what's called the World Conservation and Hunting Award. When you reach that, you have reached the absolute pinnacle of hunting in our view, right? That's hundreds and hundreds of species, trips all over the world, and you have committed thoroughly to the conservation of species across the world. So there are, as you asked, in the scoring part of it, we have a bronze, silver, and gold category. Bronze being your lower 1/3, silver being your middle 1/3, and gold being your upper 1/3 of each species. So when you take an animal and you submit it based on the measurement, it goes into one of those categories.
All right. So everybody don't win a trophy.
No, not everybody, right? So, yeah, and we do have minimums, right? So if it doesn't meet the minimum, it doesn't mean it can't go towards your World Hunting Awards that you're chasing.
Uh-huh.
It just means it becomes a photo entry at that point. It doesn't go into the record book as a scored entry.
So it gets listed, but you're not an award winner.
Correct.
Okay. So how does the scoring system work?
So our scoring system is unique in the fact that we give the animals credit for everything they grow, right? There are other organizations out there that want to create, again, I'll go back to the whitetail, create the perfect deer, right? So there's deductions, they go for symmetry. We believe that if the animal grew it should get credit for it, right? I always like to say we're not playing God, right? Like we didn't create that animal, and that animal is out there. It grew what it grew. It should get credit. So what we do is, again, on a whitetail, that's an easy one, right? It grows and it has a couple of non-typical points. In other places, those get deducted and they don't wind up on the score form at all. And ours, they will go on if they are between 0 and 3% of the total score, it is automatically a typical deer. If it's between 3 and 15%, it is hunter's choice. They can enter it into either typical or non-typical. If it is 15% and above of the total score, it is automatically non-typical. If the hunter chooses in that 3 to 15% that they would like it typical, then those non-typical points don't get added to the score, right? Okay. But again, it is the hunter's choice. If they want the whole score, then they'll enter it into the non-typical category.
Now, is there a universal way of taking the measurements? I mean, is it something that Pope and Young or Boone and Crockett, SCI, is it a universal type of measurement, or does each organization have their own standard and guidelines?
Well, I would say this. I would say it differs a little bit in some cases, but for the most part, it's pretty darn close to being the same. So we, a few years ago, we acquired Texas Trophy Hunters Association. And TTHA has their annual deer contest at their hunters extravaganza that they hold in August every year. And for years, they had always done it with Boone and Crockett. Well, then obviously when we acquired them, they went to the SCI scoring method. Well, the first year, we didn't want to upset the apple cart, right? And get attendees going, hey, where is this? This is what we're used to. So we did a Boone and Crockett and an SCI score. And their gross and our, we don't have a gross and a net, but their gross and our score were consistently within less than 3% of each other on, we're talking like
Okay.
200 deer. So you're talking maybe an inch, 2 inches, and on a lot of them, we were within eighths of each other. So the overall measuring of the animal is,
Very similar.
pretty much like you're all using the same stuff, right? And the same form of measuring. But when it comes down to final score, right? That's where it really differs because, like Boone and Crockett has deductions. So they have a gross and a net. And that's where they try to create symmetry. They take away from non-typical points and things like that. And, if we have a score, we have a total score. And then again, there's hunter's choice based on percentage.
And each species, I would imagine the guidelines are slightly different, say from a whitetail to a cuda.
Correct. Yeah, and well, you got to look at this too. As Boone and Crockett is North America only, right? So they don't even do anything in Africa. So as far as species in other continents, we're the gold standard, right? Our book is the one that includes them all. You do have some places like Roland Ward does some stuff over in Africa, right? And their measuring is pretty similar, but we do have some differences, right? Like red stag would be one, where we have some rules that maybe others don't, right? Like the crown can't start anywhere below the third time, right? It has to start above the third time. Now, other places will not have that. So, yeah, there's some rules that would differ, but I would say when you're laying that tape, that's pretty similar.
Yeah. So, aside from the categories of species, high fence, free range, whatever it might be, there's also archery, crossbow, muzzleloader, rifle. I'm sure there's subcategories for all of that.
Absolutely. And another one is air gun, right? And
that's a new one.
Yep, that's become more popular. Like Keith Warren with High Road, he is a air gun guy. He loves it, right? And I'm not shy about it. I'm gonna call him out a little bit here. Keith, we want your air gun entries. So.
Well, what about Tim Wells spear entries and blowgun entries?
Yeah, so there's certain methods that we don't accept, and blow darts. Yeah, we don't accept those yet. That's not a recognized category at this time. So, but crossbow, archery, muzzleloader, rifle, handgun, air gun, all of that is accepted.
Yeah, I had a friend that took a nice Cape Buffalo with a handgun this past summer. Pretty damn impressive.
Yeah. Well, tell them to enter it. We'd love to have it. We'd love to have it. I love seeing the pictures. I love hearing people's stories. I think that's probably one of the most satisfying parts of my job is getting to sit with the members and hear the stories, right? I don't know about you, but that's one of my favorite things about hunting is sitting around the campfire at night after a long day and talking about this, right? And hearing the stories and the experiences of a lifetime, right? Those are the things that you can't just get those going out in your backyard or walking around. You got to get out there and you got to do it. And I absolutely love that part of, a part of hunting, but that part of my job when I get to hear a member tell me about their hunt and all the cool stuff that happened, it's awesome. Super satisfying.
Well, I don't disagree. For me, hunting camp is half the experience. Taking an animal is the other half. But I live on Long Island. We have a lot of local hunters that, they leave their house at whatever time, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, get to their stand, do what they do, and they go home. They're missing out on a huge part of hunting. They don't get that camp experience where they get to go back and hang out with their friends and share a glass of bourbon and swap lies about the day.
Yeah. The fishing stories, right? Yeah. But you're right, Chris. Like, for those guys that don't take the time to say, hey, I'm going on a 4-day, 5-day hunt, right? I'm just going to take Friday and Saturday, and I'm going to, go home. I'm going to leave my house, and then I'm going to come home at night, and then I'm going to leave my house again in the morning and come home the next day, right? And they're not taking the time to get out there and be with other guys that are doing the same thing. That's the community you want to be a part of. That's
Sure.
the stuff that, it's not just getting to hear the experiences, but it's a learning opportunity, right?
Oh, sure.
Some of the most valuable hunting information I've ever gathered in my life is from sitting around the campfire with guys much older than me that have experienced way more than me, and just being able to sit and listen to them and how they approached the situation, how they handled it, right? What made them successful or not successful.
Yeah.
And then I can apply that, right? And it's, if you're not taking those opportunities, you're definitely missing out.
And, even taking that a step further, there's location, stand positions. You go with an outfitter, you're in his backyard.
Yep.
You're taking his advice. He's the expert. This is his place. And you're learning from that because hunting different areas of the country is not the same.
No, absolutely not. Great example. We were talking at the beginning when you and I just came on about that trip I just took to Michigan for the gentleman we were scoring his trophy room. And he had at this particular place, he had 1,000 acres and he had stands all over it. And we were talking about it. And he said, depending on the time of year, depending on the time of day, will depend on which stand he's in, because the wind's coming from a certain direction at certain parts of the year, and it's coming from a different direction at certain parts of the day. And you got to play the wind, right? We all know you got to play the wind. But it determines, he's got 50 stands or, 25 stands out there that he can go to, and he may have a favorite, but that day when he leaves his house, that wind could be blowing the wrong direction. It changes his plans, right?
Sure.
And so, yeah, there is a lot into it. Food plots, right? Back in, out in Arizona, we we don't have that luxury, right?
We got dirt plots.
Yeah. Salt at the most, right? But you have a lot more options in some of these, Midwestern, Eastern states where you can go out and plant certain food plots, and you learn what the deer like and what times of year they like different things. And again, that was a conversation we had there where, he said sugar beets, right? But he wouldn't really sit those sugar beets in the early season. He would wait until the first frost, because then they're going, that first frost, those beets pull out of the sugar, all the sugar out of the ground. And then the deer really go after them, and they're tearing them up, and they really tend to hit those, right? Other parts of it's clover or soy or whatever the case may be. But yeah, if you're not going to camp and you're not taking that information, you're not only missing out just because it's freaking awesome, but you're missing out on a phenomenal learning opportunity, right?
Yeah, it's always
help you success.
It's always good to have, root vegetables in your food plot, because they'll nibble off the tops in the warmer weather. In the colder weather, they're coming back and digging up the root. So you get a double shot with that.
Right. And again, if you're relatively new to hunting or you've had some troubles and you're not out there talking to those guys and being part of that and learning from the community that, look, as hunters, we typically want to help each other, right? It's not very often that you come across a hunter that won't say anything to anybody, right? Like, we want to see other people be successful. We want this to be something that's passed down for generations to come, right?
Yep.
And we want others to be successful. One of my favorite things is taking somebody else hunting and see them be successful. I get an absolute rush and kick out of watching the reactions on people's faces when they're successful. I absolutely love it. I want to see them successful. So when you don't go out and you don't make yourself a part of that community, you're missing out on a lot more than just, a glass of bourbon and some funny stories. You're missing out on, experiences of a lifetime, right? And
Yeah.
you're missing on learning opportunities galore. So.
Yeah, last year I guided deer hunts in Pennsylvania, and I had 3 new hunters that took their first deer. Great experience for them, and for me, it was like reliving my first deer all over again. It was, you get to see it through another set of eyes.
Right. And it isn't like, it brings back, it gives you goosebumps even talking about it. I know it does me. Like, it's like their reaction is priceless, right?
Yeah.
And then getting to know, like, hey, I'm taking this home. I'm feeding my family. Like, I did it, right? I came out here with a goal in mind and I achieved that goal, right? Like, there's not a lot like that, right? There's not a lot of experiences that have that same effect on you.
I agree. So how does somebody get involved with the program, the record book program?
Oh, super simple. If you go out and you're successful on a hunt, everybody takes that field photo, right? Everybody takes that success photo. You take that, you go online to the SCI website, and you go to our measuring page. You print out the form that corresponds to whatever species you took. You fill it out. You send it in to us. Or you just fill it out online and send it in to us. Remember, I said you could snail mail it, email it, or do it online. And you send it in to us, and you become a member, and you get in the record book. It can't be much more simple than that.
Well, here's a more important question. How do you measure it? Do you do it? Do you bring it somewhere? Is there some kind of, do you have your taxidermist do it? What are the guidelines for measurements?
Well, you hit on a good one, the taxidermist. So a lot of taxidermists in the United States and in other countries are official measures for SCI. So any record book entry must be measured by either a SCI official or SCI master measurer. So you got to be one or the other. If they don't know of one in their area, they can go on our website, go to the measuring tab, and click Find a Measurer, type in their zip code, city, or state, any one of those, and it'll bring up a list of measures within sometimes it depends on the filter that they set, but it's 50 or 200 miles, right? But it'll bring up in their area, right? A radius, and it'll let them know. Now, they're in a super rural area, and they can't find anybody close. They can call the record book department, and we can help them find somebody close to them.
Okay.
And then they can also do, if it winds up being a top, they think it's going to be a top 10 or a top 20, and they can only find an official, they can set up a video scoring with myself or our record book coordinator, Dwayne Abishon. We're both master measurers, and we can set up a video conference, and they have their official measurer score it, and we sit on the video and watch them and make sure that we agree with the measurements, and it becomes a master measured animal at that point. So we offer a lot of ways for you to be able to get your animals measured and get it in the book.
Now, are these pre-taxidermied measurements or after taxidermy measurements?
You can do green scores on most of them, unless, they're top 10 or top 20, then they require a 60-day drying period. Most people will get them measured after that 60-day. They want to make sure it's official, right? That they're not going to have to get it scored twice. Like I said, that trophy room we just went and measured, those were all taxidermied animals. So that seems to be the most popular. Now there's some animals that require a green score, right? And, are actually better that way, like crocs, right? You want to measure them flat on the ground right after you take them from tip to tail.
Yeah.
And then, turkeys, there's no drying period on a turkey. It's the spur and the beards, right? So you can take those right there in the field.
And then there's a category for like grand slams and things of that nature.
Yeah, so we have milestones. We can't use Grand Slam anymore. So Grand Slam Club Ovis has a copyright on that term. So we changed ours to milestones. But we do have milestones for sheep and whitetail and pretty much everything you can think of. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So how does somebody find out more or get in touch with you to get involved with the program?
So they can visit our main website at safariclub.org. They can go to the SCI Online Record Book.org. Either one of those. They can actually look at the record book. If they're not a member, they're only going to be able to see animals and scores. They're not going to be able to see member names or anything like that. You cannot see any of that until you put in your own entry, right? And that's for the protection of our members. But the SCI main site, safariclub.org, they can go on that. There's a tab right at the top that says Get Involved. They just hover over that, and to the left-hand side, it'll pop up Record Book. They can go right in there and get our number and call us if they have questions, or they can, do the reading if they're one of those people that just want to read about it and get involved that way. All the information they need is right there. We do suggest, though, when you're getting started, you got a few animals, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. We want to be a part of your hunting journey, and we want to help you along in getting involved with SCI, because there's not just the record book's not the only way you can get involved with SCI. There's so many different aspects to it, and usually once you get involved with the record book, you wind up getting involved in the other aspects as well. So we want to give you all those options. So we definitely encourage you reaching out to the record book department directly.
Well,
and our number on the website.
You definitely hit the nail on the head, because I was not aware personally of just how many departments SCI encompasses. And there is literally something for every aspect of hunting and advocacy and information-based. If you're not a member of SCI, go to safariclub.org. Definitely check it out. It's definitely a organization worth getting involved with. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris, and thank you for that. Yeah, if you're not a member of SCI, we want you to become a member. We want you to help us with our efforts around the world to protect hunting and hunting rights around the world. We genuinely want every hunter to be a part of SCI. We don't care where you're from. We don't care if you only hunt whitetails or you only hunt with a bow. We want you to be a part of us. We want everybody to feel welcome and know that they are welcome. So, Chris, hey, thank you for having me on today, and thank you for being willing to listen and sit back and bring attention to SCI. I really appreciate your time.
But more importantly, if you haven't subscribed to the American Outdoor News Podcast, hit that subscribe button now. And we'll see you again next week.
Amen.